you got any savings left? After the last couple of years, it seems a bit of a big ask, but maybe there is some money somewhere squirreled away. And my question for you this morning is, when did you last check the interest rate on that savings account? What about the last time you moved it from one account to another? Now, don't worry if it's not something you've spent much time thinking about. You're not alone. New research reveals almost a fifth of adults in the UK have never checked the interest rate on their savings account, and over half haven't moved it in the last year. And that means there's £366 billion stuck in low interest accounts. And many of us are missing out on what could be hundreds of pounds worth of returns. That money could make an enormous difference if you've been through the last couple of years in the cost of living crisis. So what should you be doing? What steps should you be taking to make sure you're getting the most out of your money? Joining me now is Amy Knight, who's a personal finance expert with the brilliant named NerdWallet UK. Morning, Amy.
Morning, Sophie.
Were you surprised by the sheer number here of people who've just sort of stuck the money in an account and gone, tick, done, don't have to think about it anymore?
Yeah, I think the amount of money and the number of people affected is quite surprising. But actually, when you think about it, the reasons why it's happening are not so surprising. Things like the hassle factor of doing your life admin, that financial checking. People have understandably craving a bit of consistency. We've had to go through a lot of change in terms of global political, economic stuff going on. It's very understandable why people would want to just stick with what's familiar and what they know. And that might mean having the same old bank account that they've had for years. It's also true that lots of people haven't quite got their head around what inflation really means. Inflation's been enemy number one for the last few years, but understanding the impact of that on your cash is a bit tricky to think through.
And in terms of the difference it can make, like say you've got, I don't know, £1,000 kind of squirreled away, what kind of difference can it make if you put it into the right account?
It can make a significant difference if you're prepared to leave the money somewhere for a couple of years. So I was playing around this morning. There's a calculator on the Bank of England website. And if you Google it, there are a few of these calculators around. So it is worth having a look and plugging in the numbers that reflect what you've got squirreled away. So I chucked 500 quid into this Bank of England calculator and I looked at what would the difference be if it was earning 1% and if it was earning 5%, because there are savings accounts on the market at the moment offering more than 5% interest, and that is beating inflation. And that's really critical that the current inflation rate is 2.3%. Money that's sat there and isn't earning 2.3% at least is essentially shrinking in its value as the price of stuff goes up. Unless the value of your money's going up with it, your spending power is going down. So this £500 at 1% interest over a year, it's just going to make a fiver. It's better than nothing, but it's really not going to help you very much with what you've got to pay for. If you found a 5% savings account, it's earning £25 in that year. Okay. And then when you think about it compounding over time, so at the end of that year, you've got £525, and that's going to make 5% interest, and on it goes. Yeah. I like to think of it as a snowball. It's not very seasonally appropriate analogy, but a snowball, the bigger it gets, the more new snow sticks to it.
Yeah,
and if you
absolutely.
Think about your money like that, it's quite helpful.
Definitely. So, I mean, what's the best way? Is there a sort of comparison website, or like if you're sitting there thinking, okay, definitely haven't looked, need to go and check. How can you find out which accounts are offering the most?
Yeah, comparison websites definitely a really good place to start. If you want a bit more of an understanding of what you're looking for, and for instance, different banks have different pros and cons, if you like. It might be really important to you that you can speak to somebody on the phone rather than just using an app.
Yeah.
So if you want that kind of information about which account is right for you, then the NerdWallet UK website's probably obviously going to recommend you go and check that out. But in terms of working out which account and which interest rate, really important to think about when you're going to need that money. And if you've got all your eggs in one basket, as it were, at the moment, and this is, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people have got their money in low interest accounts, they want it where they can get their hands on it quickly because they're almost expecting another financial shock any minute after what we've been through the last few years.
Yeah.
Very understandable. But you don't have to put it all into one place. You don't have to put it all into a savings account that's fixed for 2 years. You can just put a chunk of it in there, and you need to check whether there are any fees for withdrawing early. How many days would it take you to get that money out? But if you can confidently put a chunk in there, lock it away for a couple of years, keep your emergency funds separate so there's still cash you can get your hands on if you were to need it, then hopefully your confidence is going to build. You'll feel more empowered to try a few different things in the future.
Really interesting to speak to you. Thank you, Amy Knight, who's a personal finance expert with Nerd Wallet UK. If you want to go and have a look at where your money is and where you might want to go and put it.
Sophie, look.